So this presentation is a preliminary exploration inside the student and academic collaborative research environment through the views of students at upper secondary level, undergrad, postgrad, and alumnus level, and the academic, when undertaking research on topics of interest to both collaborators. The literature recognizes that in a student as partnership relationship, both students and staff possess different but comparable forms of expertise, with others noting the student-faculty partnership as a collaborative reciprocal process through which all participants have the opportunity to contribute equally, although not necessarily in the same ways. Here, a partnership positions both students and faculty as learners as well as teachers. The circumstances for the research being undertaken in this project varies. Western Sydney University offers a summer scholarship program, and around 500 undergrad students have been through the program. Two of my co-authors, Withnor and Gunawikrima, have come through that program researching with me, and benefits of these undergrad research programs with an academic, noted by Brew from these programs in which undergrad students engage in real research projects in the junior years, include increased confidence in the research, in the ability to research, intellectual development, including improved ability to apply knowledge and skills, clarification of career goals, the opportunity to work in a collegial way with an academic, have one's work taken seriously, but she also notes to be alert to exploitation of students. In summary, the literature offers several positive outcomes for the collaborative research relationship and one warning. I find there is a similarity between co-researching with students and practice-led research. Both are drawing on information directly from the experience of the researchers themselves. The only reference I've found where an academic has co-researched with a student is Blom and Strickland, like 2020, where a practice-led research and student-teacher dialogue approach was adopted to investigate undergrad music student response to avant-garde music of the 1960s, early 70s, through performing Annie Lockwood's Piano Burning and reassessing what we call music. Because this current research project is in a very early stage, some of the research projects are just starting, for another data has been collected and another completed. I thought of adopting a case study approach, but then remembered these students are my co-researchers, not research objects. Does case study apply? So perhaps I'm adopting a practice-led case study approach. When Diana told me symposium email came around, I thought I'd ask my student co-researchers one question. What do you hope to learn, or have you learned from doing our collaborative research in relation to the topic itself and the process and experience of collaborative research? And today I'll discuss our responses. So the findings, I've listed the responses of the student researchers and myself and married them with the literature. Those in red are what I consider new findings outside of the literature. Hudrik Raga is a year 11 student at a Catholic high school. The research we're undertaking is on composition teaching and learning. I've taught a 4-week composition module at the school for the last few years, and I'm interested in what Hudrik is learning from my composition teaching approach. In response to the question on collaborative research, Hudrik says, there are a lot of things I'm looking for and hoping to learn both from experience in participation and in collaborative research as a whole. He gave a list of learning possibilities, offering a rich pool of skills. Atalia Huang is a year 12 final year student at the same school and is working on the same project as Hudrik with me. She's been playing the piano for 12 years and studying the NESA HSC Music 2 course for 2 years. Atalia recently submitted a rather mature composition for her HSC exam. After naming her 3 other co-researchers, Atalia wrote that she was interested in research methods which relate to her composing. She puts a strong focus on compositional insights, but an added layer of understanding in relation to one's own musical background and how it can influence compositional decision. Mark Lewis is a WSU undergrad and honours alumni and he has a recently completed PhD for another university. And he's one of the music teachers at the Catholic secondary school attended by Hudrick and Natalia. The four of us are researching composition teaching. Mark broadens Hudrick's interest in feedback even further to encompass types of feedback and their effects on students' compositions. And as a teacher, Mark is interested in how project-based learning involving professional musicians can authenticate accountability and evaluation of composition and student composing. Aaron Gunawikrima and Pamela Withnell were both awarded WSU Summer Research Project positions on two different research projects that I'd put forward. Aaron is a first-year BMUS undergrad, or he was at the time, and he worked on the project investigating why this music in response to COVID-19 pandemic in 2020, and was initially worried as to whether he would be able to execute the required tasks successfully. He says, I honestly did not know what exactly to expect of the research project, because although I have done research for my musicology units, they generally revolved around ultimately writing an essay on an already existing topic, and not necessarily one that was brand new. Aaron identified specific stages of the research process: division of analytical labor, clear song analysis categories, findings, and literature review and reinforcement. But he also noted how these skills transferred to undergraduate work, other and undergraduate work, and learning from collaborative working with lecturers, and learning about other research and analysis approaches. Pam Withnell is a mature age undergrad student, a jazz saxophonist who recently completed her BMUS. We worked on a project about hearing the war on the music, Australian popular songs on the Vietnam War, and have given several presentations and will write 2 articles. Pam found that being a mature age student is interesting, and that on one hand it's going back to school, where the teacher is the authority and passes judgment on you via subject marks. Then on the other, I probably have more in common with the lecturers than with my fellow students. Pamela's responses are wide-ranging, from the partnership itself and sharing knowledge with the academic, tackling practice-led and autoethnographic writing, improved writing style, confidence, and learning about different aspects of the topic being researched. And Peter Long is a postgrad candidate, his thesis recently approved for graduation, who co-taught and co-researched with me on peer and self-reviewed responses of second year tertiary music performance at university level. He recently led a presentation on the topic. Peter noted how only when compiling the data from responses to questionnaires on the videoed performances did I realize the level of detail on aspects of performance that perhaps weren't immediately apparent during the live act. A new view, so to speak, through the lens of research. And finally, wait a minute, there's more Peter's comments. And finally, me, the academic. I enjoy collaborative research, exploring a topic with others. Of the research half or fully completed, I'm impressed with the different thinking that emerges when collaborating with a student. Fresh analytical thinking, fresh language, often vividly descriptive, and excellent insights and connections. When there's disagreement, the resolution suits the topic and deepens the findings. Research approaches via email with some face-to-face meeting work well, and I guided some of the overall writing up of presentations to date, but would like to engage the students in the study design, collecting and analysing data, preparing work for public presentation, and choosing journals for articles. So, in conclusion, there was a strong link between student and academic responses and the points raised by the literature. Different but comparable forms of expertise, everyone as learners, increased confidence and ability to research and apply knowledge and skills, intellectual development, career goals, working in a collegial way and having work taken seriously, but not exploitation of students. I don't think I was doing that. Well, I hope I wasn't. Across the range of researcher responses is an understanding that research skills knowledge deepens with years of education. For secondary school students entering a very new project, just the idea of research collaboration. For undergraduates, more specifics, and for HDRs, specific areas of new knowledge identified. And there was a move from interest in the self, one's own artistic practice and one's own research process, to a wider thinking about research skills and to future work with the co-authors, writing of their short-term and long-term thinking, including future research, future artistic practice. But also teaching pedagogy improvement in the case of the alumni. This is about career goals, concerned with the transferability of some of the research skills into senior undergraduate work, into future performance teaching, and secondary level teaching pedagogy. The other new finding, which is beyond the scope of the literature review, is the deepening of one's interest in the topic, new knowledge about understanding one's own composing process, one's own research skills, and about the topic being investigated, and improving teaching pedagogy in a senior school. This is all evidence of longer-term music livelihood thinking for the self and for the work with others. And for me, as the academic, I see this as an innovative learning and teaching practice with potential for the professional development of student musicians across a range of levels. Thank you.
Diana, thank you. Thank you so much. Wonderful. And really fascinating to hear almost about research as a space for kind of developing possible new selves as students dive into those topics. Did you have any sense of a shift in identity or self-perception in this project?
Well, unfortunately, the work with the secondary school students has just started. We're going to have a Zoom next week. So that's early days. They've been finishing HSC. Yeah. But I think certainly for someone like Peter Long, who's a postgrad and he's done teaching, and then that move into researching that teaching has been very good. And him looking at his teaching, his work as a teacher, and of course he's just finished his PhD, so he's ready after graduation to go and use his skills elsewhere. I do think so for him. For Aaron, who is I think he's second year BMUS now, and I'm not sure whether he's a postgrad, whether he's a mature age student, but he's a Sri Lankanese international student. He seems to have got a lot out of this, and he's going to present with me on the COVID material that I mentioned next week. I've gone and foolishly put myself in for three online conferences. This is the second one. But it's going to be very good having Aaron doing his work and very keen to present and to learn this stuff. So if you like, I think he's seeing himself moving into research and wanting to hone those skills.
Wonderful. Does anyone else have a question for Diana?
Come on, folks, I gave you lots of questions.
Diana, maybe we can come out of screen sharing there. I wondered too, I mean, there's so many possibilities around just, I think, intergenerational project work. Do you find that actually the difference in age and perspectives also brings a richness beyond some of the things that you've already identified there?
Yes, definitely. The first work I did was with Pamela Wisnell, who is mature age, but she's not my age. And she just had she's got a good analytical brain, and she was just fantastic. We were unpicking the music of about 3 or 4 Australian Vietnam War popular songs, and she did fantastic insights into that. And I mean, the summer research project has been the trigger for some of this, but also I got fed up with our ethics process at the university. I just find it so ponderous. And I thought, right, let's work with the students instead of examining the students, investigating the students.
Yeah.
And I think that the secondary students, the two secondary students, and the alumnus, the Mark Lewis, will be very interesting to work with. They're very interested to get going on this composition, teaching, learning project. So I think the generational thing is fantastic.
Wonderful, thank you. Kirsten, you got a question?
Yeah, thanks, Diana, for your presentation. It was really interesting. I was just wondering, bouncing off what Nicole was saying about identity, whether you found for yourself whether there was any change in how you identified in your role as the academic guiding these students through the process of the research.
Yeah, it's a good question. I'm still learning, Kirsten, and I have to stop myself from being too pedantic, and then I have to also remember that the young ones have no understanding of the research process. So that's why the Zoom, the teacher, the Mark Lewis, who's their music teacher, has asked for a Zoom, and I'd like to explain how I've got to. For example, I've sent them this presentation. I actually asked them to look at their responses, and I put them on the table, and I asked for comments, and I didn't get any back in time from anybody. And I know people are busy. One, Peter Long's buying a house, and there's all sorts of other things in life. But I will talk with those young ones and get some responses from them. Yeah, so it's going to be a learning curve for me. I don't want to do it all, but I have to realise that they don't know, a lot of them don't know the process. Some of them do know the process. And the undergrads, of course, are interesting because they know one style of research for their musicology, but it's not secondary sources, but it's not new data.
Yeah, that's a really good point, I think. Yeah.
So there's a learning curve for me there as well.